And good morning, everybody. This is Sherman Ray, Black Success Magazine, the podcast. We're with you again. We're about midweek here in Las Vegas. And today we're going to be talking about the 8 reasons why journaling could be your best tool for success. That's right, journaling. I know this is probably one of my most favorite subjects because it's something I do a lot of. But we're going to be talking about that today on Black Success Magazine, the podcast. We come to you each and every day, folks, to talk to you about success. That's all we talk about each and every day. You can go to our website and you can find out all about us at blacksuccessmagazine.com. Or if you'd like to send me an email, you can send that email to me at info@blacksuccessmagazine.com. Once again, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or even Apple Podcast, where all you have to do is call out to your Alexa smart speaker and say, Alexa, Alexa. That's it. And we welcome you folks that are with us on Facebook, or you're with us on YouTube. If you have a question, and we don't do this a lot, but if you have a question that you'd like to ask me during the show, I can see your question, but unless you actually give me permission, I can't actually find out what your name is. So definitely send me something in the comment section. Love to hear from you. Tomorrow we'll have Robbie Thomas on, and we'll be talking about finance. So it's our Financial Thursday show. And then Friday, it's Open Mic Friday. So Open Mic Friday means you can talk about anything you want, and we'll reserve the entire show for you today. So let's talk a little bit today about 8 reasons why journaling literally could be your best kept secret, and it could be your best tool for success. Um, I started out the day today watching ministers, and I do that on occasion throughout the week. It depends on what the week is what's going on during the week. But I will watch people like David Jeremiah, or I'll watch, gosh, what is her name? Because I don't watch her as much as I used to anymore. One of my wife's favorite pastors that comes on. And they reminded me of something that I had not even thought about in literally a couple of years. And it was on journaling. And what is journaling? And how you use journaling. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I used to do that all the time. As a matter of fact, when my old church, that was one of the biggest things we did. We spent, literally, I don't know, 10, 15 years at least, really just pushing the journaling, writing down your thoughts, writing down all the things you did, and giving all the reasons why you did journaling. And I thought, boy, this is probably I remember it was probably one of the greatest times of growth for me as a leader, as a thought leader, quote unquote thought leader, that I experienced in life. And I thought to myself, well, if it worked in the past, why shouldn't it work now? And I started thinking to myself, well, that is something that we probably should bring back up to our listeners here at Black Success, the magazine, the podcast. And so I look behind me, and you know what? I've got tons of journals. I mean, I really do. I still write quite a bit. I don't write as formally as I should, but it's really something we should do. This is a journal I had, and this was the last journal I did, and I want to read to you some of the entries that I actually had in the journal. This one was actually a journal that I got from Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy, many of you know who he is. He was the editor and the publisher of Success Magazine, and he put out a journal called "Living Your Best Life, Your Best Year Ever." It's called, and it's trademarked. So, "Living Your Best Year Ever: A Proven System for Achieving Big Goals." And this book, I got this one back in 2000, and I had to look at the date on it. It was 2013 that I actually got this. And remarkably, you know what happened in 2013? It's when I opened my restaurant. And I looked at some of the journal entries, and this is a week by week journal. And so it's got a lot of entries, a lot of interesting stuff in it. It might have been probably a little too complex and I look at it now and I go, wow, it's probably a little too complex and it takes a little too much time for everybody. But Half of the book is really explanation. So it's, a 400-page book or something like that. And it talks about all the things that you should do, and it gives you room for you to write down your thoughts and goals and dreams and desires. But um, one of the things that I thought was really cool was that I can look back on my journal, the journal that I had during these days, and I can look to see if I hit any of the goals that I'd set for myself during that time. And you want to hear something funny? I was looking at it, and we won't take time to do it now, but I was looking at it and I said to myself, oh my gosh, I hit all of the goals that I was looking for during the time that I wrote this journal. Once again, it was 2013. At the time, I was opening up a restaurant, or I was hoping to open up a restaurant, because I said, I wrote in an early entry that I wanted to open this restaurant called Avery's Coffee, and I did. I wanted to lose 50 pounds, and I did. I wanted to train for a marathon, and I did. Those are now. So, what does this prove? Well, it proves that I can look back, and we'll talk about this in just a second a little bit more, but it really talks and it speaks to the point of some of the goals and some of the things and the benefits of journaling. So we're going to talk about that. So once again, if you've got a question that you'd like to write, I can actually see some of your comments in the comment section. So if you've got a comment you'd like to add to the broadcast today, feel free to, folks. We're going to actually do it, and there is a kind of a time delay in what you write and what I will see and answering back and forth, but I will actually answer those back. So let's talk about 8 reasons why journaling could be your best tool for success. Number 1, journaling requires you to reflect. The act of journaling, sitting down, pen to paper, requires you to slow down and reflect upon what you are talking about. We suggest that if you're going to journal, that you journal within literally 24 hours of the day. So, and the reason why you want to do that is because the things are fresh in your mind. Your mind is still ruminating. It's still kind of turning those thoughts over in your mind, whatever's going on in your day. The act of using a pen or a pencil to write gives you pause in your day. It takes time to write things down. So we suggest to you that you don't type out your journal, because when you type out your journal, you're not thinking about it. You're really not reflecting upon what you're doing. You're just getting thoughts out. And so the act of reflecting, and Blaise Pascal, a French philosopher, said something very interesting. He said, all of humanity's problems come from man's ability to sit quietly, or his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And Pascal didn't mean that you sit in a room in front of, a TV or something like that and you don't do anything. The best thinking comes from structured reflection. And the best way to do that is writing a personal journal. By just sitting there and saying to yourself, man, I had one of those days. Maybe at the end of the day, you write and you kind of just, you just pull out your pen, your paper, and you just write down your thoughts. And I mean, one of the hardest things for people to do, especially in the day that we live in right now, is to slow down. Even at the end of the day, and many of you are like me, and you've got a lot of things you're doing. I mean, you really do. You're pulling life's expectations, your expectation of yourself, pulling you back and forth. And so by the end of the day, you just kind of plop in your bed. There was a time, and this was probably at least, oh gosh, if it was 2013, that's when life really went for me. Even before 2013, we're talking about 2009, 2008, 2007, 2000, or 1995, actually, where I know I had plenty of more time to just sit at the end of the day, read with my wife, talk about things, talk about the day, And those were times where I saw the greatest growth in my life. Now I'm doing probably a lot more and more ambitious things now, but it seems to me that there was a more sense of satisfaction 10, 20 years ago than there is now because we don't sit back and reflect upon our day as much. Journaling actually brings you back to that place where at the end of the day, you just kind of download everything that goes on in your life. Number two, journaling allows you to enhance your learning and your development. I'm reading from a really great article. I think this is Harvard Business Review. Yeah. The guy's name is Dan Ciampi, and he wrote something very interesting about being able to learn from the things that you're as you're journaling, how you can get really great learning experiences. He said he conducted an informal survey of journal practices of most and least successful participants in financial markets. And he said that most people who made the most money journaled. The people who just kind of went through life and they kind of, got things done and did not journal made the least amount of money. And this is what he came up with. This is very cool. You get to evaluate your experiences. You can make corrective efforts, and you get to reevaluate performance after those efforts. And that's really important in life, is that you just don't keep going forward. You actually can go back and you get to look at and learn from and even develop corrective measures based upon what you're seeing as you journal. I know personally, I go through a day, and I did this yesterday. Very interesting. We were had a great meeting because we're developing a TV show, and we spoke to the sales guy. We talked to the networks. We talked to these people. We had a great board meeting afterwards, and we talked about it. But my greatest time of inspiration came when I was sat down in front of my computer, and now I was writing out all the things that we had spoken about. And I went, oh my gosh, there are more points to this than we had even discussed. I don't know what everybody else did during their time after having our conversation, but I know personally I sat back and wrote out all of the things that I thought we needed to address moving forward. Those things would not have come to fruition had I not journaled about it and I had not written those thoughts down. And those are important things that you can do. What do I need to do? How did I do it? What outcomes came? What alternatives could be a part of whatever I'm doing that day? And those things all come by way of journaling. Let's go to number 3. It releases your innermost thoughts, dreams, and desires. Your journal, because you have it by yourself, can be your best therapist and dear friend who listens to you without judging you, without interrupting you, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can tell your journal things you wouldn't dare verbalize to someone else. Literally, I've heard of one writer who was talking about her journaling, that she had been keeping a journal for 29 years. They were all little bitty journals. Some women keep journals and they call them diaries, but they're really journals. Under lock and key, they have a little key because those journals have their innermost thoughts, their innermost desires, their innermost whatever's inside of them. It's just their time of just releasing those things. And those are things that maybe you may never tell to anybody. That is very therapeutic because you think through a lot of things that it might have been an irrational thought or an irrational action that you did, and you would never see it unless you wrote it down. You wrote it down And then you look back on it as you're writing down, you go, oh my gosh, that was really irrational. Or that was really bad. I probably shouldn't have done that. Or I should have done that and I didn't do it. And the only reason why I know it is because I see it on paper. And especially in business, I'll tell you right now, you can learn a lot from what you've done. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. When you've written things down and you've written down conversations that you've had, or you've written down meetings that you've had, or experiences, you might have just opened up a new store and now you write down those thoughts at the end of the day and you go, oh my gosh, I did not see that. I just wrote it down and now I see it because it's on paper. It's in front of me. Another thing that happens is by you writing those things down, you get it off of your mind and you free up space in your mind for other things. And that's really important too, is that you don't just carry those thoughts around all day long. I tell you the truth, when I go to bed at night, it is and if you're like me, it is very hard for you to just let things go. You might think about them all night long. So a way of alleviating that is to journal it. Because if you journal it, you're not going to forget it. You're not going to forget it because you wrote it down. So free up some space. Give yourself a little bit of, a little clarity and a little bit of space to dream about things for the next day by journaling. Let's go on to the next one. Number 4, it helps you track your personal patterns. And this is important. By getting into the habit of consciously and attentively looking back over your journals, and this is what you've already written a journal, and like I said, I've got at least 10 of them that I can see right now. I can look back in those journals. You can track your personal behaviors and the patterns of things that you do based upon what you're reading, is because these are permanent files on you because you wrote it down. You know exactly what you did, and you can see what you've done, how you've done it, the frequency of how you've done it, and possibly ways that you can alleviate that in the next time you do that. You'll also be able to see the patterns that get you in the way of your personal and your physical growth, health, and with yourself and with others. There might have been people that that you didn't get to have relationships with. If you've journaled, you can actually see why you've done that because you've written it down. You've written it down and you're going, oh, you know what? Today I made friends with this person or that person, or, whatever was going on. Or I saw this person or that person, or whatever it might be. And then you look back on this a couple of years later because you wonder why you don't have friends. You wonder why you don't do this, you don't do that. Your journal is actually a permanent marker of what you did and what you didn't do. And that's important for you. Let's go on to the next one. Journaling is your creative portal. Because you're in dialogue with your inner life when you write in a journal, you solve problems and get creative. There are times when I've journaled and then I've looked at a problem. And this is probably important. Now, I have paper all over the place, everywhere. I mean, not just here or there, but my journals tend to be yellow notepads. And I write down stuff all day long. And I can go back and look at those pieces of paper and go, aha, that's where the problem was. Or based upon what I just wrote down, I might be able to, especially if you go away and you come back and you look at it, you go, oh my gosh, I just saw I can add to this in this way. We're developing a show. We're developing organizations. You can't see it today, but normally the camera angle will actually show you behind me a whiteboard that I have. And the whiteboard I have is always in view of me. And the reason why I do that is because I will write down an idea on the whiteboard. And as I'm walking by it, more ideas will come to me based upon what I see on that whiteboard. Your journal is no different than that. It's just it's a place where all of your ideas come to. There are a lot of people who, and I wanted to do this before I had the show today. But some of your greatest thinkers write in journals, small books. They keep them with them all the time, and they do that and they write down thoughts and ideas all during the day. And then at the end of the day, they add to those thoughts or they add to those ideas. It's because your mind works and can be very fluid, especially really creative people. And the more you do this, the more creative you will become because it's like a muscle and you're using that muscle all the time. But the more you write things down, the more you will come up with ideas. People like Virginia Woolf, Maya Angelou, Ralph Waldo Emerson, David Thoreau, Sylvia Plath, Alice Walker are among hundreds of writers across the ages who have kept diaries and journals, which has informed their writing and creative productivity. So the more you write, the more you will actually think. You'll come up with ideas because your mind is used to it. Now you're going, oh, great. My mind, you are giving your mind license to be more creative because now you're writing things down. You're saying, oh gosh, and it's kind of like you working out. The more you work out, the more your body will respond to you working out. Your body's not going to just say, okay, I don't want to do it. I'm going to fight against you. It doesn't work that way. Your mind, your body all say, if you give me license to do something, I will do it. And that's the power of having a journal in your life. Let's go on to number 6. Your journal records your goals and your progress. And this is really cool too. Once again, I'm going to go back to my journal. And this is the one, and the only reason why I'm coming to this one is it's the closest one to me. I actually have quite a few that are spread out all over the place and in drawers. I've been finding my journals all in drawers too because I keep them all over the place. And I know some people, they keep their journals, they have the same kind of journal and they make them in volumes so that you can actually they look like books that they go across the thing, which is very cool. But your journal records your goals and your progress. If you are like people who are very structured and who are they're very put together, they will act. You can look at their journals from the first day that they started them and pick them up at a certain point. Let's say you pick up midway through, their journaling process, and you can find out exactly what these people have been doing and look at them personally now. Have they hit their goals? Have they hit their desires? Like I said, I looked at this goal, this one, like this journal. I wrote this journal, or I started this journal in 2013, and I looked at some of the journal entries, and I'm going to read one to you right now because this one was very cool. If I can find it very quickly here. Okay. So this was one of the goals that I had was, okay. Wow. So this one was about my coffee business. And one of the goals that I was writing about in 2013 was to open my coffee shop. And I did it. One of the goals was to lose 50 pounds. Okay. I did that also. Boy, that's so cool. I mean, it's so cool to look back and to look at some of the goals and the desires that you are trying to hit. And you can look back and you go, oh my gosh, I did hit this one or I didn't hit this one. Didn't make $1 million, but became a millionaire because that's very cool. Yeah. And you look at yourself and you go, wow, those things make you go, yes, I can look back on my, because if not, psychologically, it helps you as a thought leader, as somebody who's on a success journey, that you can look back on successes and go, oh my gosh, this really works. And journaling did that for me, which is very cool. So let me put that back up here. Thank you. Keep that in close to you. Let's go on to the next one. Oops. It requires you to think things through. Journaling requires you to think things through, especially your whys and your hows. When you sit down behind a blank computer screen or sheet of paper, you begin to write out what you've accomplished during the day. We are forced to think through our progress on a deeper level. The discipline forces us to answer the difficult questions of why, how, or why not. And the answers to these questions are not just helpful as we move forward to repeat successes and avoid mistakes, they can be therapeutic as well. So it requires you to actually think through, okay, why did I do that? Not this, oh, I'm just writing down facts and figures. Why did you do that? Why didn't you approach that person? Why didn't you not do this? Why was it so important for you to get this point across? Why did you have to fire that person? Was this really necessary? And it may not have been. Let's go on to the next one because we're running out of time here, folks. And finally, journaling proves that you did things in the past. It proves you got things done. Sometimes we can get to a place where we have a failure in life and we look at our lives and we go, oh, I failed. Oh, I can't do anything wrong. You look at your journals and you could find out if you did things right or you did things wrong. Or if you've recorded those progresses in your journal, you can look back and go, oh my gosh, I got it right. I did it right, which gives you more, it gives you that thing where you go, yes, I did it. I did it and I can do it again. I can look back at my journals and know for a fact that I could lose 50 pounds easily because I did it. It was in my journal. It's not like I made it up. I wrote it down because I did it. You don't write in your journal, oh, I'm the greatest person in the world, and you're just lying to yourself. No, you don't do that. You write in your journal facts and figures and emotional responses to things, and that gives you encouragement for the future. So that's why journaling could be your most powerful tool that you're ever using for your success journey. And I encourage you to do it. So how do you do it? So in the last minute or so that we've got, I'm going to tell you some really quick ways on how to journal. One, I would suggest that you actually physically journal, that you actually physically write. Get a book. Okay. Here, I'll get a different journal out. Oh, there's a different one. Oh, here's one. Okay. This is a smaller one. This is a smaller. Oops, sorry. That was another journal. So once again, this is a journal. See, it says journal right there on the side. Physically, go out and get a small journal. These are probably $5-6. Okay. And you'll write in this thing for, who knows? You might write it for a year. You might write it, might not. But physically go out and get a journal and begin to write in it every day. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be particularly eloquent, but just commit to writing in your journal each and every day. Think more about substance rather than about style. What did you do? What were your thoughts? What was your emotion when you did that? Talk about, it could be a project that you're working on. Write about what you felt about. Oh, I felt so great about doing this, that, or the other thing. Or what was I agonizing about or something like that. Okay. But do it every day. Don't get so motivated about length. Okay. It doesn't have to be very long. I mean, it doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs of things that you write. Whatever it is, it's particular to you. The idea is to actually get you into the physical act of the habit of writing things down. And recognize your needs. Just because you write you've made it 4 days or 5 days doesn't mean you have to do it every single day. If you miss a day, that's fine. Commit to doing it the next day and getting it done. Anyways, folks, those are some great tips on journaling, folks. This has been Sherman Wright, Black Success Magazine, the podcast. I really encourage you folks to be with us tomorrow. We'll have Robbie Thomas will be on. It's our Financial Thursday show. So be with us tomorrow morning, 8:30 in the morning for Black Success Magazine, the podcast. This has been Sherman Wright. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. Bye-bye.